Welcome to the Gregarious Mammal podcast, and in this episode is the first of two interviews I conducted with startups whilst I visited Dubai. It was an interesting place. I think these interviews will form part of an article around the general feelings I experienced in Dubai, but let's start with a couple of interviews first. And this first interview is with Rami, Ayush and Rishav from Wrappup AI, and I'll let them explain what they do.
So we started off at a hackathon. I met Rami. I knew Rishabh back from my college days, but we met I met a hackathon in May 2015. Angel Hack runs these hackathons all over the world in across 60, 70 cities, and back then the idea was very simple: record the conversation, tag important moments manually, play them back, write your notes, and send out the summary email. That's how the basic idea started. We built our first prototype in under 24 hours. And that got us, we won the hackathon with that. In within 24 hours, we built that first prototype, and then we decided to go full time with it in June.
Okay.
We officially incorporated the company in July, and then because we won the hackathon, there was a free accelerator program that was run by Angel Hack, where there was every week some sort of deliverables in terms of marketing, sales, product development, traction, and you hit those markers. And then at the end of the 12-week program, they invited about 15 teams from all over the world to fly down to Silicon Valley for their global demo day.
Yep.
And we won the grand cash prize from HP for $10,000 there. And that's how, and then that's when we started to fundraise and, evaluate Dubai versus US. And that's how we started to build the product from that point onwards.
So you're not from here originally, or...?
No, I mean,
all of us are expats. So
yeah, well, I think that's
nobody's. Nobody's from
I interviewed someone yesterday who was actually from here. But yeah, it's a tiny minority.
For example, me and Ayush went to school in Dubai.
Okay.
I grew up in DC and came to work in consulting.
Yeah.
And I worked there for 4 years, and then we met at the hackathon.
So we happened to be here when we started.
Yeah, no. So you haven't actually, I know what it is, but you haven't actually said what the idea is.
Yeah. So explain the story. So it's basically, Wrappup is basically an AI note taker. So we use AI to summarize the meeting conversations, extract out the most important parts like action items, notes, and decisions, and then share it across the parts of the meeting. And to bare bone version.
And is it a standalone app, or is it?
So we've sort of become a more ubiquitous platform. So we support your face-to-face meetings through the mobile app. Mm-hmm. Then there is a web component where we plug in with existing conference solution providers like Zoom, Uber Conference, Skype for Business. All you have to do is either integrate your calendar to the meeting invite, or invite our bot, Lucy, to the meeting. It will dial in 5 minutes before the call, record it, summarize your meeting, and send out the notes to all the participants.
And I mean, just from my own personal perspective, I'm a big Evernote user, and it does that with written notes, written notes, but it doesn't do anything with audio. Is there a possibility to hook into that at some point, or not really? You're more going for the way that meetings are normally facilitated.
So the thing is, with Evernote, it's text-based, so it's a completely different paradigm. Yeah. And we're kind of quite the opposite. We want to hang off of voice and speech, and then everything else that builds into that. So from search to summarization to even voice commands. So recently we launched voice commands with live transcription.
Okay.
So that did two things. One, people were seeing the transcript happening in real time. That gave them the confidence to believe in the system and kind of increase our retention rate by around 4x. And then two, the voice commands. So we're in a conversation. I can say action item. Send this out after the meeting with more details so that Chris can use the app in his next meetings and even transcribe his, interviews.
Can I see the result of that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's a sort of standard level of transcription, but it's not bad.
Correct. So a few of the trends that we kind of bucked on is when we started, transcription was crap. I mean, really, like if you had to use it for anything of use, so we hid it behind a search layer, but we knew that the curve of transcription technology was going to eventually become commoditized. So we started building all of our intelligence and all of our use case and kind of USP after the fact of a transcript, right? So how do we identify important moments? It started with a button.
Yeah.
That is now training our algorithms towards identifying what's an important moment, right? And then two, just from language understanding, what is an action item? Yeah. Well, actually, if me and you sit in a room, yeah, there'll be some false positives. Yeah. But if me and you sit in a room and we start to identify the different terminologies that go along with what seems like an action, we'll actually find out, like, I'll send this to you next week, or we'll follow up.
Yeah.
And we list all of those out. That's keyword spotting. It's pretty, mundane. What we did is we then transferred that into more of a language understanding model where our neural networks are actually predicting action items based on intent. Whether it's the exact word, I'll follow up with you next week, or I'll send this out.
Yeah. So three questions at the moment. What are those kind of keywords?
It was just a basis for the neural network. So what it does is basically understand, when you train a neural network to say that this is a positive action item, it understands what the underlying intent is. So we had an initial corpus of words that we started training with, and then we over time increased that corpus. So now it understands that intent it's the intent to do an action item. So I will connect back with you in a week. Okay. Or let's loop back in a few days to understand what's going on. Or why don't I send this across to you? So all of this is an intent for an action or a thing to happen in the future, which is what we...
And the second question is, how can I exit out of them? Like, if I speak very quickly after an action item is triggered, and then, like in this case, it was going too long.
Just hit X.
So it's a manual button.
Yeah.
And can you export those to Jira or
anything,
something like that?
So once you've completed the meeting, we'll automatically email you all the info. Then you'll have the ability to export it to any one of your apps as a text with a link to playback on top of it.
Okay.
Today we integrate to Slack and Salesforce.
Yeah. Okay, Salesforce makes sense. Yeah. I don't use it personally, but it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
But like, for example, for small teams, Slack has become the new
standard. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, you don't have to answer the question if you don't want to, but I'm guessing if you only started in June, you didn't write your own text-to-speech, speech-to-text engine.
No, we didn't. We use Google Speech-to-Text engine to do the transcription. We did everything on top of the transcription, which is we built our own neural networks from scratch to detect the action items, or do the keyword spotting, or understand what's important, what's not important. So everything beyond the transcription is what our IP and our tech.
And why did you settle on Google? Did you try things like Watson and things like that as well?
So we were working with Watson for a year and a half.
Okay.
Google just launched a transcription only over the summer. It was in a very close beta, and we finally got access to the beta program before they launched to the public. And their prediction accuracy was a lot better than Watson's prediction accuracy.
So for some time we even had both of them running parallelly and comparing the results for every meeting, and then we had to choose one over the other.
Yeah. Okay. And does that also let you support other languages?
60 other languages. So basically, whatever languages.
60 or 70?
Yeah.
60 to 70 languages. Yeah.
60 or 70.
It's 100 with dialects and stuff in between. We think it's around 60. Essentially, we were just in English, and we were featured as an app of the day. And we only knew that because actually in Germany, we started looking at our Slack feedback channel. And it was a bunch of German people that were really angry at us for not having German. And we were just getting message after message, like, what is going on? Like, we never told anyone we had German. And it turns out we were featured in the Germany store, we were featured across Europe and a lot of Asian countries, and they were all requesting some form of, localization, which is transcription languages. Yeah. So we, kind of went back into hack mode.
It's actually strange though, because the second language that Alexa is supporting after English is German. Which is strange because it's not the biggest language group. And also it's not a culture that tends to like to talk to listening devices for privacy reasons and stuff. So it's a strange kind of choice. Someone did tell me the reason. I've forgotten what it was. But
for this, I mean, if you think of a Germanic approach to meetings.
Yeah, but it's actually quite interesting. I don't know if I've been interested quite a lot in voice interfaces and things recently. And sometimes some of the hardest languages for humans to learn because of the structure, and some of the easiest languages for a computer to process because of the structure, like Finnish.
Right.
It's incredibly complicated, but actually it's one of the simplest languages for a computer to process. Which is super strange. And not that there's going to be that many chatbots in Finnish, really, but it's still kind of interesting. And also Czech has a strange amount of... Also because I think there's a university there that has recorded lots of, I can't remember the proper word, but lots of language data on the Czech language. So there's a lot of material to work with, is one of the reasons it's overrepresented in the space.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a very fascinating space. And I mean, I'm guessing, do you have problems with, well, it's not you, it's Google, but do you have any way of coping with the sort of standard problem of accents and colloquialisms?
You can choose the accents from the dialects. If you have in English, you have at least 15 versions of English as well. English Indian, English German, English French.
But a meeting will possibly have like 4 people speaking a different...
We won't be able to, I mean, so...
Yeah. Their neural networks are actually... You can see when it switches between me and you.
Okay.
That it will actually pause a bit the first time it hears you.
Yeah.
And that's it trying to identify you as a different person.
Yeah.
And you can actually see that it'll grab your transcription a little bit differently than mine. But it's not at the level that they'll publicize it.
Yeah.
So it's nothing, I don't think there's anything written out there.
No.
But you can visually see that it's taken care of a lot of that.
And are you, is it live? Well, it's live, obviously. You've got it. So how many customers and what's your business model at the moment?
So right now we've left it for free because we're still trying to identify, I mean, we've got 90,000 users so far. Our pricing model is going to be coming into place in the next few months. But we were lasering in on our use case and where do we really want to have the most impact, and it's in sales. Yeah. At the end of the day, salespeople have the most meetings.
And the most concrete outcomes.
Yeah. It's actually pretty structured, because they're usually going through the same topics. Yeah. And then sales teams have a need to optimize and kind of be aware, share internally, document. Yeah. What's the CRM other than managing everything around them?
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, it's interesting because, not so much for me, because I tend to just put my interviews out as podcast episodes. I don't do too much transcribing. I tend to just use them as a kind of a base for things. My wife does similar work and she's always trying to transcribe interviews, and she's tried something Tronics or something.
Trinix.
No.
Trinix, yeah.
I'm not sure.
Trint or Trint.
I can't remember. Something.
Trint is the British one company.
Yeah, she hasn't had a lot of luck with it. Usually it's poor quality audio. She's got an Australian accent. She's usually interviewing people with a wide variety of accents, and she hasn't had a lot of luck with it, especially when it gets to technical terms as well. I actually noticed this recently. I use Grammarly quite a lot, which is a more text correction. Yeah. But I only just upgraded recently, and I noticed that it actually has a toggle for type of language, which is kind of interesting.
Right.
So it'll pick up, there's certain words in technical language that aren't really correct, but they are in that context. Is there anything like that for voice? Picking up on certain...
So, like custom dictionary kind of thing?
It's a custom dictionary, but like a custom domain dictionary.
Yes. So what we do is we do it with all the teams which we onboard and everything. You can actually put in your own custom words and like business acronyms and everything. Yeah. For example, in startup world, VCs and like angel fund, like there'll be a lot of technical terms. You can just put it in your profiles or something of our team, and whenever it's transcribed on real time or stuff, it tends to see if any of those words were taken and has a higher like impact for those, like confidence. Like if those words come in, so it will automatically correct all of those. Yeah. So we have kind of those things in the voice space also now. They call it custom keywords.
Yeah, okay.
Custom dictionary.
And also, we help build that for them as well. So one of the keywords that needs to be transcribed quite efficiently is names, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things we do is we look at your calendar, we look at the names in your calendar, the proper nouns, we actually plug that into your dictionary. So we're actively building that with you throughout the process. But as we specialize with sales teams, we also build custom kind of dedicated solutions.
Okay. And I mean, what's been your biggest difficulty so far, the problem you've hit the most with trying to get the service to work, or expectations from people?
I mean, maybe you can talk to kind of training on transcript data versus, perfect.
There's, bunch of I'll tackle the technical line, we talk about the business hurdles. I think the biggest one is, there is the transcription engine and the that transcription service is tending towards a commodity now, but most of the algorithms or most of the work that has been done in the voice interface has always been on structured data. So when you try to run any sort of neural networks or intelligence platforms on transcript data, you tend to have a lot lesser accuracy, or the prediction goes haywire, or it doesn't seem the right output just because most of the algorithms have not been on structured text. So we put a lot of effort to, one, clean up the text, second, give it a structure, and then run the algorithm on top of that. One of the things we've been playing around with is summarization, but in the terms of how a human summarize a text of paragraph. Yeah. So imagine I read a TNW article, and I want to give you a gist of it. The more traditional way is to just pick out sentences, which are the top sentences based on a very simple algorithm. The second is a concept called abstracted summarization, and that is how a human would have summarized this piece of meeting. This piece of article or text, and we've been trying to do that on meeting conversations, but we've been struggling with getting a higher accuracy just because all the engines and all the data out there is run on newspaper articles, nothing on transcription text. So you have to put a lot of effort to, one, build the data set yourself, label the data set yourself, and then train on top of that. So that's a lot of time we have to put into really get the accuracy that you're looking for.
And how easy was it to plug into the meeting software? Are they all open to plugins and things
so
like that?
We did it in a pretty ingenious way, whereas we didn't want to build distinct integrations with each one. So what we did is we said all of these meetings that are happening will have a dial-in, predominantly, and all of them will have an invite. So we read off the invite, that dial-in, and basically dial into the call to capture. So it's a roundabout way of integrating with literally everything. So we kind of
circumvented the lowest common denominator with that.
Yeah, exactly. So right now we're focused primarily on the US, and we've plugged in all of our kind of engines to call in, to dial into US phone numbers, and then slowly we'll expand from there.
It is an interesting way to do it. Does anyone have a problem with you doing that so far?
It's about communication and clarity. Really, so
I don't see why they.
Oh, the platforms.
No,
it's more about like user privacy and confidentiality, and that's really about us being clear about what's happening. And when you see someone else on the call, it's obviously need to be disclosed. So we send emails before the call, after the call has been completed, and then our user kind of expectations are to inform people based on their jurisdiction. In Barcelona, you don't need to tell anyone you're recording. Germany, it's one of the strictest laws. So we focus on the US. We kind of covered our bases there.
Pretty loose.
It depends, actually. 13 states have two-party consent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, we spoke a little bit at the beginning, but how did you end up here in the first place? You were studying.
Both of us.
And you just...
Yeah, so I was working as a consultant with naming companies, and as a management consultancy, I was doing one organizational redesign program, and I basically had back-to-back meetings with clients, 4 hours. Pitch the idea. These guys built something. I was up until kicked ass in 24 hours. Literally, I used the next week and quit the next month. We started a company.
And to be honest with you, I don't actually know if there's not that many examples of projects that come out of hackathons and keep going. There's often a lot of enthusiasm for about a week, and then it just dies.
Right.
It's very, very rare, actually. And especially some of the bigger ones like Angel Hack and things. I know often the end result can be a bit of a sort of letdown. It never results in what you expect. To sort of what's promised is kind of half actually happens, and etc. So it's actually really cool that I think the first time in quite a while met a project that's actually come out of the hackathon and kept going. So well done. And why did you stay here? What? I guess what's the positives? Or no. What kept you here? And then we'll talk about the positives.
So when we had won the competition, or the demo day in the US, we had some offers to stay out in the US, and we had initial discussions with investors here. And one in particular, our lead investor, eventually Beckel Capital, was really keen on exporting innovation. Not, investing in local startups just necessarily to make a profit quickly in e-commerce, but actually build something different and export it to the rest of the world. So they're kind of our incentives aligned, and we said, we can go through an accelerator, or we can, fundraise and become a company and actually build the things that we want to build ourselves and learn the steps ourselves. So that had a lot of positives. Now, some of the drawbacks are, if you think of the ecosystem for people using this, adopting this, businesses paying for it, everyone will take a meeting on innovation. And they'll take 2, 3, 4, 5 meetings, but will they really get down to business and get something done? And that's when we started making regular trips out to San Francisco, from TechCrunch to, almost on a quarterly basis, we were out there talking to other startups, businesses, investors, partners, and we ended up, building all of the tools and platforms based on feedback of those trips. So we eventually said, we need to set up there. And now, as a part of the Salesforce incubator, we're going to be starting out there in February.
Okay. So I'm guessing there are some negatives to being here, which is mostly, I suppose, sort of geography, maybe?
The market is not that mature enough. They have not seen that much. So that's the thing. Like in San Francisco, you can find all the things. Like people are more mature enough. They have experience, like the investors and everyone you talk to. But over here, things move very slow. For example, when you need to run a pilot with some company or something, in SF, you get the answer up front. Or the cycles are very smaller compared to over here. It takes months and years.
Okay. I guess the positive I've seen so far is that it's quite easy to get talent. Like there's such a mixture of people from various different backgrounds.
Depends what kind of talent.
I mean, tech, the good part is you can get, Ukraine and, Eastern Europe has sort of closed your Turkish talent, but it's still not, it's still very difficult to find tech talent in Pacific.
This is actually interesting because the person I spoke to yesterday told me the same thing, that it seems that a lot of the development work here, especially, is not done here.
Mm-hmm.
It's
either Eastern Europe or India or subcontinent.
Because the setup is such that you have to be on a visa here. So no one's just sitting around here without a job, right? So you're either poaching them or you're bringing them over. And if you're bringing them over, you're opening yourself up to that same risk of someone poaching them. So it's kind of a very difficult market to navigate.
It's a town of founders and managers.
And if you say the word AI or machine learning, you might as well be speaking German.
It's fair. To be honest with you, I found very few kind of people I actually wanted to speak to because it was mostly. You're obviously kind of B2B sales, but it's not as clear as that. It's a little bit more interesting. It's a lot of sales platforms, a lot of e-commerce, a lot of kind of things to me that were not massively interesting. But there seems to be a lot of activity. So I guess you've probably highlighted the positives and negatives there, and you're not staying. So
we'll continue to have a base here. I think one of the great things about here, it's kind of like a controlled environment for you to really test your stuff, right? There is the little fish, little pond, and little fish, big pond. We would have never been featured as an app of the day in the US, plain and simple. We would have probably not gotten all the pre-R and press and kind of uplift that comes with that if we were based in the US. So it's got both.
And it's actually some of my favourite places I've visited in the past couple of years have all been small places like Estonia and Israel. Both kind of fascinating places, and they're all tiny, and you have to go overseas, but they're a good place to be based. It's kind of, I think it's a common pattern actually. So what's the plan next? What's your roadmap for the next 6 months?
On the tech side?
On the tech side, we're keen to focus on improving our neural networks for training purposes to get a higher prediction accuracy. And then we're playing around or trying to go live with the summarization aspect. And we have a speaker ID. We're building a speaker ID in our platform, which is once this conversation is done, we segment the audio to different speakers based on Chris, Rami, Ayush, Rishabh. We'll identify the different speakers and label them as random A, B, C, D. And what we're going to build is a speaker ID on top of that, which is basically your voice print saying that this is Chris, this is Rami. So the next time you have a conversation, it knows that who that person is.
Connect it to social profiles and CRM profiles. And
At least within teams,
yeah.
Within enterprise teams to start.
Yeah.
And something you can probably train on a consumer level as well.
Yeah. Okay. And so, I guess the other things are relocating. It's a pretty big. And then working on how you're going to price, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Pricing, is kind of been established. We've got something. There is a market within the training space for kind of keyword spotting and kind of playback or on training on top of that for inside sales teams. One of the interesting things is we've got a mobile app and a web app, so we're kind of multidimensional. And field sales is still, like, if you think of Europe, 70% of sales is done through field sales. And in the US, it's still 55%. And that's completely untapped. So kind of targeting that field sales angle is going to be something very interesting for us to take on.
Yeah. How plausible would it be to get this to work offline?
It does work offline, it just wouldn't have live transcription. So there wouldn't be any live voice commands. But everything we do, we actually process twice just for fidelity. Because if there's any internet connection drop or whatever, we want to make sure we have a full transcript properly run.
Okay. So I can imagine, especially sort of salespeople and who knows where you end up.
Yes.
It's
They're on the fly with bad network connectivity. They're always running around.
and airports are notoriously poor too. That's why I hate doing everything in the cloud, actually, because it's like I don't always have an internet connection. I'm sorry. Or it's very up and down, or very slow, or very poor.
So the basis of our whole platform before live was post-processing.
Okay.
So
Cool. I think it would be interesting to try it. I don't know if it necessarily suits my use case. I'm not sure. I might try it for meetings in the future, because it's often actually something that we forget a lot is I do some kind of sort of content marketing type blogs for technical startups and things. And sometimes we have a meeting where we've agreed to some things and everyone's forgotten what we agreed to.
Right.
No one noted it down. And so it's kind of a perfect use case of that sort of thing. The 5 points that everyone agreed to.
Right.
And I don't remember agreeing to that. It's like, well,
check
there you go.
It's actually, we kind of segmented it into three types. One is like project status meetings. Those kind of, everyone knows what they need to be doing. You just need some sort of a record to go back
Stand-ups.
to, right? Yeah, like stand-ups. Two is like fact-finding.
Yeah.
If you're doing research, interviews, stuff like that, a lot of your job is actually playing back this really linear form of doing things, which is audio. While search and text is actually nonlinear. You can read faster than me, you can skim through, you can jump to the important points. So there we actually enable an even better kind of research aspect. And then there's the decision-making meetings. These are more like what you're trying to do in sales, what you're trying to do in these sessions, and that's where you're trying to really drive outcomes and look for those important points.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And just in the time you've been here, the other question I'd just like to ask, just because it gives me more avenues to look into, would there be 3 other projects or startups or whatever here that you would highly recommend to people?
Definitely. You want to each choose one?
Yeah, there's 3 of you. So it could be a community thing, a startup, a project, a place that you think is really cool.
There's so many, but Lunch On is one that I really like. I don't know if you've heard of them, but essentially they take the annoying part out of ordering food at work. This is a very big online and food ordering segment of the population here. And what they do is they actually send you a message on a daily basis from 2 different restaurants, choosing only 3 options from those restaurants. And you can either opt in or out. And on that day, you will receive your lunch at that specific time. and it'll just be waiting for you. And you're in meetings all day, and you've got all these things to take care of. And half the time, you end up exactly like I did today at 3 o'clock, kind of disturbing our meeting while eating instead of, having it ready. So I thought that was a really interesting one.
Cool.
For me, I suppose Washington will be
I was
one.
going
Yeah.
So it's more like it's not very in tech heavy right now, but it's like on the laundry service, but they're using tech to improve the service. So for like laundry service over here in Dubai, mostly people give their clothes outside.
Yeah.
Like the system of washing all of them inside and in-house is very less. And it's always a pain to go to a laundry shop or call them for pickup or anything. But for me, I just put the clothes in the bag, put it outside, and they know what kind of the way I want it back. Like they fold each and every cloth in a separate, like pack it in a cover and give it to me so that when I'm traveling, I just take them along. I don't have to organize anything. And so I just put it outside, they clean it. After 2 days, I get, okay, this is the report, they did it, and this is the thing. But sometimes the innovative part is, for example, you're at house and they have some delivery drivers around you, so you automatically get a push notification. Do you have some clothes for laundry? You can get it for a discount right now because we have some people in the area. Like they come and pick it up, and those kind of like using data and AI to change the industry and disrupt it, like reducing the cost. I find that like very innovative. Like, because that's an industry which has never been disrupted in a long while, and they're using, reducing costs, and people are already there, pickup drivers, delivery drivers, how can we like ask other customers or who do this kind of stuff?
It's like a flash sale on your lawn.
Yeah, it seems to kind of fit the style of the city as well. It seems to be a very kind of
on demand.
It's just the whole place is kind of manufactured. So it's just like everything seems to be sort of convenience focused, which has its attractions, Sometimes it's a bit extreme, but it sort of has its attractions too. And have you got a plan B, or was that?
Yeah, I'm going to go for a more deeper tech play. There's this company which works out here called Dirk. They basically use AI to predict accidents well in time before time. So they use cameras on road traffic signals, and they've mapped out cities or areas, and then they can use that with real-time information to predict that accidents happen or not using the AI that's built. And they have a couple of patents, and they're building some really cool stuff. A lot of the drone technology that you typically use on drones, like SLAM, which is basically simultaneous location and mapping, or LiDARs, or a bunch of stuff like that. They combine that with computer vision and to do these predictions, and they're pretty interesting looking tech, like a really heavy tech play.
But is it? So I guess it's more about. I guess there are some accidents caused by weather conditions or too much traffic or something like that. But then there's
these are essentially what they're doing is instead of being on top of the car, they're actually partnering with the government to be on the traffic signals themselves. And then they're working with the government to embed these monitors inside of the cars so that they're alerted before an infraction happens, right? So if you see a light turn yellow and the driver doesn't, and they can calculate the speed of that car coming towards that light, they'll actually alert the driver to slow down and it'll stop the car in time. Or if they're committing an infraction, legally speaking, crossing or turning when they shouldn't be, it's able to identify those. So these are MIT.
It starts to feed into the whole very near future of will anyone be driving anyway. It's actually interesting though. I saw this fascinating presentation from an Israeli professor about self-driving cars, and at the moment self-driving cars are too nice. And he showed this video of this self-driving car trying to get onto a roundabout, and no one was letting it go because the car was doing the right thing and having the aggression.
I'm sure they'll try to put in more human characteristics. There should be some sort of biasness that comes to these engines. There's no way you can avoid that kind of biasness.
You need to be able to put like a little bit of your own personality into it in some respects. Well, also it comes into the whole ethics algorithm. It's like I care more about old people and children.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's this whole balancing. Anyway, this is going off of a tangent. But
in that case, all the self-driving cars should be connected to each other. Then only they'll be able to solve it.
In theory, yeah. I don't know. But again, how do you judge something like a roundabout, especially? Like, who is... Yeah, I don't know. This gets into very complicated territories.
Thank you for listening to the Gregarious Mammal podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, you can find previous episodes at gregariousmammal.com/podcast. And if you'd like to support the show, then go to gregariousmammal.com/support. And you can stay in touch with me on Twitter at Chris Chinch or in the interwebs at chrischinchilla.com. Talk to you next time.